G'day, I'm Tim Thompson, and today I'm really privileged to spend a bit of time with one of my viewers, Neville Koch. I've got to know Neville over the last couple of months, and his story has truly inspired me. His can-do spirit and his ability to make things and invent things to get around a pretty significant disability in his life, I think all of you today will find completely inspiring. So let's meet Nev. I'm going to get him to tell you a little bit about himself, a little bit about his philosophy. We're going to see some of the stuff that he's currently inventing, and then we're going to let him rip with some brand new equipment and just see what's possible on this fantastic property that he's managing. Hey guys, don't forget to, if you like this sort of video, hit the subscribe button, give it a like, and there's plenty more content on timthompson.ag.
I have the same disease, Parkinson's, as Michael J. Fox. We were diagnosed about the same time. He's 10 years younger than me, nearly, and he has a style that affects his upper movement. I have slight tremor in my hands, but not to the extent of a lot of other people. Mine is in my lower legs and feet. My best time is early morning. Being on a bigger parcel of land than your quarter-acre block is an incentive every morning to get up and do something, and it gives me, when I go to bed at night, I know the next morning I have something to do. Even if one day I might sit in my chair and do a lot of thinking about a project I want to do. Nothing is drawn out, it just comes with mind and ability to think it out. Like my seat behind the rotary hoe. I don't have to, I'm standing up when I'm operating it. A lot of my disability is managed by the ability to make things to suit my condition. I don't consider it Parkinson's disease can be crippling. You can sit in an armchair and wait till it grabs you and takes you, or you can be determined, like I'm hoping to keep active enough to can manage it. Moving here is the best thing we've ever done. The fact that my medication is being reduced in strength and is a goal that I never thought would happen. No stress and plenty of exercise. I learned from my father, who never wasted a thing.
When you first drive your car onto Neville's property, you get some hint as to the inventiveness of this man just by opening his front gate. Now, how many times have you come across jerry-rigged equipment on gates that doesn't quite work properly? Well, I can assure you that from the gate wheel to the latch to the custom covers over his steel posts, everything on this gate is well made, measured, and works perfectly. And it gives you a hint as to the man behind it. I couldn't arrive empty-handed, and when my sponsors heard about Neville, they were keen to help out too. G'day Nev, how are you mate?
All right, Tim.
Mate, it's awesome to see you, and thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. I think you've got a lot to teach a lot of us about a lot of things. So can we spend a bit of time with you, having a look over your equipment, seeing your work in the shed?
You're welcome.
Well, Nev, we've got some fantastic sponsors on the channel, and they've heard about you and they have been absolutely insistent that we look after you in this particular shot. So we've got some Davo's fencing clips for you so that you can easily secure your wire to wooden posts. I've got a fantastic welder here from Weld Class. They've really stepped up, these guys. They've heard about what you're manufacturing and fabricating to keep yourself on the place, and they were insistent that we give you the 180 MST. But they've not only done that, they've given you the whole kit. So you get angle grinders, cutting discs, new tips, wire, all sorts of things. The team from Whites have heard about your little baby goats and how they like to get out of things and how your fencing's not quite up to it. So we've brought up 100 metres of 890/15 stiff stay, and if a goat gets through that, then they deserve a medal. We know that you love to fence with steel posts, so we've got a pack of stock posts here for you, and I'm figuring that you probably want to put a new fence in at some stage. So the team from Fence Stay have stepped up, and they've given you some end assembly brackets that work with the stock posts to make an end assembly just out of steel posts. Neville put his equipment to good use and made short work of unloading the gear.
When there's a will, there's a way. Well, it was originally a Cub Cadet ride-on lawnmower. The electronic PTA let go and we couldn't engage the cutting deck. We at the time didn't need a ride-on lawnmower, and I thought about just using it as a little small tractor, but taking the deck off gave me, and our old place being very hilly, I needed to keep the front wheels on the ground. That's why it swings it pivots like it does, so it just floats over uneven ground.
That's pretty cool, mate. So you've basically made yourself a gator out of a Cub Cadet.
Its name is Cub Gator.
Mate, I just love this. And you've got a whole raft of accessories that you put on the back of this Cub. Can we hook them up and you go for a bit of a drive and show us how it works?
I'll buy on one.
All right, let's do it.
I'll come here and I'll give you a operational driving lesson on this.
Neville, you sure you should trust me with such an expensive piece of equipment? You've seen what I do with instructions.
Yeah. Throw them away and read them tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. I've got one of these.
Yeah. Now if you want to go back, right now, go up. Right, lift up.
And we're off. Fencing with Neville. To catch up there, Nev. You're a pretty quick driver, mate.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through this setup piece by piece because it's pretty impressive, mate. So let's start at the front and move to the back. What do you reckon?
When you need to take items out to your fencing, you need the spinner with your stay wires and your mesh, fencing mesh. So it all hooks up together, one behind the other.
And what gets me about this, Nev, is that you haven't gone down to the store to buy some steel. You've used the scrap that's available.
Yes.
And you've simply welded up some square frames, used a fair bit of gal steel I see here.
Yes.
So the new MIG welder is going to come in handy with that, isn't it?
Yes.
And I love this. You've actually got yourself a vise for out in the field as well.
Yeah.
Now, the number of fencing contractors swear by having a vise on their vehicle, you wouldn't believe. So you've got that on yours as well. Now we come down here, we've got our little roller. This is a beautiful piece of construction here. Bits of Rio bar used for reinforcing all sorts of things here. And then we come down to this extreme example of adaptation. We've got a rotary hoe, and you've worked out on the top of the ripping tine on the rotary hoe, you've welded on a D-shackle, and that's given you a trailer attachment for a bike seat. So you can actually sit on this and drive it around rather than have to walk, because obviously your legs are causing you grief as you go through the day.
With the property, when we bought it, there was a lot of rocks on dragged down up to the surface through the years of slashing that I wanted to protect our slasher and our ride-on. So this was able to operate. I could drive this around, see my rock, and without getting off the machine, I could bend down and pick it up and put it in a little trailer hooked on the back.
And at the moment, hooked on the back, you've got your little bit of mesh fencing here, and you've been having trouble with your goats getting out.
Not so much getting out, getting the head stuck.
And you've got the old-fashioned sort of large picket spacing on this mesh here, so that new white mesh should hopefully get rid of the need for that.
Yes.
Now, you might have run out your wire, but you always have to strain it up. You've got a solution for that as well.
Yes.
Let's have a look.
Simply, you've got your two leads, power, positive and negative, hook them up to the battery, which comes back, supplies power to this point. As you can see, I've got 3 pins. The extension leads give me a length that I can be away from the winch, increasing my distance. Using my own spreader bar, I can winch off the machine using a pulley and I don't have them have the right power supply to the winch, and the winch right up against the fence.
So Nev, you were explaining to me off camera before that for you, using standard fence strainers is just a little bit too dangerous and difficult.
I find the grabs on the strainer, I haven't got the strength in my hands to do things like that.
So hence you've come up with this idea of using the winch off the back toe ball, being able to have it away from the fence, so that you've come up with this block and tackle system to try and get your pull straight with your spreader bars, and you've done all of that just from scratch.
Yeah.
Mate, this is a truly impressive little setup, and I think there'll be a number of people at home taking notes on how they can do something like this for themselves. And there's some great ideas in here for all of us, such as even just something as simple as, you know, attaching a vise to part of your fencing kit that you got out in the paddock. And I suppose for you, being able to have this little gator type setup on the back of your ride-on, it's also really important because running back and towards to the shed, no good for you.
Yeah.
So you've got everything with you in the one go.
Yeah.
Now I believe you're currently working on yet another fabrication project at the moment in the shed.
Yes, that's correct.
So I reckon we should go back into there and have a look at that and see if we can't get this world-class welder set up and see if that improves your manufacturing.
Oh, well.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. When I was first showing signs of Parkinson's, I spent some time in 5 years in actual fact of them searching what it was and They were, so I deteriorated. I ended up in a small wheelchair just to move around.
Well, Nev, you've been doing an amazing job with your little stick welder over there.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see what you start building when you get yourself a really high quality professional welder. So I'm going to step out of the way and I'm going to let you rip into this and find out about all the great gear in here. They've even supplied an angle grinder for you. So I think what we'll do now is we'll get this set up and you can start building a new tool. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm quite interested.
I think Neville is really enjoying unwrapping his new gear. What do you reckon? Too much gear, Nev.
Sorry. Oh, instructions. Again, working with the disease.
Now, Nev, these machines come from world-class setup, ready to do either gas or gasless MIG, TIG or stick. There's a couple of accessories that we won't be needing today because I'm going to set this up for you for gasless MIG welding, which is better for outside anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put this regulator and this gas hose away into the box safely.
Yep.
All right, so if you ever do want to experiment with gas welding in the future, and it's fantastic, you've got everything that you need to do that. But today we're going to set the machine up with reverse polarity so that it's all set up for gasless MIG welding. Now, I've spoken to a number of people who have tried gasless MIG welding in the past and they've had a lot of trouble with it. There's two things that they do wrong. They don't reverse the polarity of their torch and they use cheap wire. We've got you some world-class wire today. It's some of the best in Australia, and we're going to reverse the polarity of the torch to make sure that this thing works without spatter and without issue for you.
Okay.
All right, let's get it all set up. All right, Nev, now thanks for your patience, mate. It's taken us about 5 minutes to set this up. We've put your spool on. This is gasless MIG wire, so we're making sure that we're using the serrated feeding spool down here. They've given you a few different types. They've given you some feeding spools for gas MIG wire as well. But you want to make sure that you use the serrated feeding spool when you're using gasless wire. I've only put the tension down a little bit on this. A lot of people make the mistake of putting too much tension on their feed spool.
Yeah.
I've backed it right off to the point where it's just spinning nicely off here because we don't want to grip it and ruin the flux around the outside of the wire as we're feeding it through. The other trick, and the very important thing that a lot of people don't realise, is that when we're running gasless MIG wire, we need to change the polarity of our earth and our torch. So at the moment we've got our earth set on positive and our torch set on negative, which is what we refer to as reverse polarity. As long as we do all that, we should be okay. This little chart up here is really all you need in order to be able to set the machine up to weld any type of steel. Let's get you onto this, mate, and get you making some sparks.
That is brilliant. I've never used one before, but it's so simple.
All right, in you go, mate.
It's going to make life so much easier manufacturing.
Neville and Sandy's property is a bit of a little paradise. They share it with about 1 million different animals, including some birds, some very cheeky birds.
Bernie.
This is Bernie, apparently. A 35-year-old horse, 2 or 3 dogs, and a whole menagerie inside. I think if you're talking about quality lifestyle, these guys have it. What do you reckon, Bernie? Hey, what do you reckon? You're going to chew the microphone in a minute, aren't you? Yeah, I can tell. You're going to chew the microphone. Yeah, hello. How are you? I think he's talking to him. Hello, mate. Hey? I won't pat him. I think that'd be asking for trouble. And Nev, I see that you're using steel posts as end assemblies and sort of jerry-rigging up your own system here of stays.
Yes, that's correct.
I've got something that might interest you. I've got an engineering solution for using steel posts as end assemblies. Do you want to have a whack at putting one in?
I'd love to.
All right, let's get into it. Now, Nev, you like to use your steel posts as an end assembly, and a lot of people do, but it's problematic. They tend to fail on you a bit if you don't do it carefully, or if you put them under any stress. This end assembly kit that I'm giving you today from Fence Stay means that your steel posts won't fall over when you set them up as end assemblies. I've personally had one of these in a sheep paddock for a couple of years, and it's withstood the strain. I even hung a gate off one once. Alright, so shall we set it up?
Yes, please.
So the first thing we want to do is use the top bar to mark where the posts go. Then all we have to do is whack the two posts in the two holes here. How do you go using one of these?
You come down this one and I'll show you how I...
Alrighty, well I'll pound this one, you pound yours, alright? This looks like it might get interesting. That went in bloody quick. I've been wanting to get a post driver for some time, powered post driver for some time now. You just went and made yours.
Yeah.
So what have you done?
It's just a chisel that I got and cut the end off and manufactured it around that.
So this is a piece of steel pipe with a cap on both ends, hole drilled in it so that this can move. And looks like you didn't have a bit of square tube, so you just made some.
Yep.
And then it just articulates inside with another cap. I couldn't get over how quick that drove that in.
Yep.
You were as quick as me.
Yeah. If we had started together and I hadn't walked over to get the drill.
Well, I got to win somehow, don't I? Now what we've got to do is we've got to assemble our brace. So then we just put our diagonal brace in here, get the two bolts and nuts that are supplied with the kit, and the trick is don't do them up tight, you only want them loose. And then all you've got to do is slot these down over your steel posts. There's your end assembly, mate.
Unbelievably simple.
It is. There's a hole here and here. Make sure that you put a wire through that hole, through the steel post and through that hole there, just to lock it all in. Do the same this side. So you actually have it so that you're pulling on it this way. So you want it to compress. So you put these in a little bit backwards to how you would normally think about an end assembly. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going away from this video completely inspired. It's been an absolute privilege to spend some time with Neville today and have a look at what he's doing to get around what is a really serious disability. And I tell you what, I'm never going to complain about a sore knee, a bad ankle, bad back or a headache again. Guys, don't forget, if you like this kind of video, hit the little subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and there's plenty more content on timthompson.ag. I'll see you next week.